The skies over Wyoming were clear that night. Susan Mitchell stood on her porch and looked up at the stars like she did most evenings. The cool air of early autumn made her pull her jacket tighter. Something caught her eye, a strange light moving, unlike any plane or satellite she had ever seen. "What in the world?" she whispered to herself. The light zigzagged across the sky, stopped completely, then shot upward at an impossible speed. Susan rushed inside to grab her phone. By the time she returned, 3 more lights had appeared. They hovered silently over her ranch. She took several photos and a short video before the lights disappeared straight up into the night sky. 300 miles away, Commander Alan Pierce sat in his office at the Deep Space Monitoring Initiative headquarters. The facility had been tracking unusual signals for nearly a week. His phone rang. Commander Pierce speaking. "Sir, we've detected a large group of objects entering the outer solar system," said the nervous voice of Lieutenant Patel. "Their formation and speed. They're not natural objects." Pierce's heart raced. "How many?" 37 distinct signatures, sir, and they're slowing down deliberately." In less than an hour, Pierce assembled his crisis team in the main control room. Screens displayed the approaching objects, now clearly artificial vessels of enormous size. "Current trajectory suggests Earth. Orbit in approximately 3 weeks, said Major Frank Rodriguez, pointing to the display. "Their technology is far beyond anything we've ever seen." Dr. Olivia Grant, the team's xenolinguistics specialist, pushed her glasses up. "We're receiving transmissions. The pattern suggests language, but nothing like our communication systems." "Can you decode it?" asked Pierce. "Partially. They're repeating the same message. Based on the mathematical patterns, they're announcing their arrival. There's no request for response." She hesitated. "The tone seems imperial, commanding." Pierce looked around the room at the worried faces of Earth's first line of defense against something they had always considered theoretical until now. "Contact the Joint Chiefs immediately, then the President. We need to prepare for first contact." Within days, the news broke worldwide. Panic spread through major cities. The stock market crashed. Religious leaders made statements about the end times. Military forces around the globe went on high alert. In the White House Situation Room, Commander Pierce briefed government officials on what little they knew. "We're calling them the Draconians, based on the constellation they approached." Pierce explained. "Their fleet consists of 1 central vessel nearly 3 miles long and 36 smaller ships, each larger than our biggest aircraft carrier." "What do they want?" asked the Secretary of Defense. Dr. Grant stepped forward. "Based on the fragments we've decoded, they consider themselves the dominant power in their region of space. This isn't a diplomatic mission. It's a show of force. They refer to Earth as a resource world and to humans as primitive potential." "Potential what?" asked the President. "The closest translation would be subjects or subordinates," Dr. Grant said quietly. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "What are our options?" the President finally asked. Major Rodriguez cleared his throat. "Militarily speaking, we have none, sir. Our most advanced weapons wouldn't even reach their ships before being intercepted. We've observed their scout vessels easily outmaneuvering our fastest jets during testing encounters. So we surrender before they even arrive?" The President's voice was sharp. "No," said Pierce. "We prepare for contact. We show unity, and we learn everything we can about them." As the Draconian fleet drew closer, Earth changed. Old enemies set aside differences. Scientists worked around the clock to understand the alien technology. Military forces combined research on potential weaknesses. Susan Mitchell's ranch became a scientific outpost after her video went viral. She watched government vehicles arrive day after day, setting up equipment all over her property. "Found anything interesting in my dirt?" she asked Dr. Howard Nelson, a soil scientist who had been taking samples for days. "Nothing yet," he said with a tired smile. "But we're testing everything. The scout ship hovered right here longer than anywhere else. We need to know why." On the 19th day after first detection, the Draconian fleet entered Earth orbit. Their massive ships became visible even to the naked eye, dark shapes crossing the sun and moon, causing brief shadows on the ground below. In New York, London, Beijing, and every major city, people looked up in fear. News channels showed nothing else. Parents kept children home from school. Some people fled to rural areas while others gathered in churches, mosques, and temples. On the command ship of the Draconian fleet, Supreme Commander Verax watched the blue planet on his view screen. His scaled skin reflected the blue light as he turned to his second-in-command. "The primitives are aware of our presence," he said in the clicking, hissing language of his species. "Yet they make no attempt to flee or surrender." "They cannot flee, Supreme Commander," replied his officer. "Their technology is barely sufficient for their own lunar satellite." "Begin atmospheric testing," ordered Verax. "Send 3 scout ships to sample their air, water, and biological specimens. No direct contact yet. I wish to observe their reaction." On Earth, Commander Pierce watched as 3 smaller Draconian vessels broke formation and descended toward the atmosphere. "They're coming," he said to no one in particular. Dr. Grant worked frantically at her station. "I'm detecting new transmissions between their ships, more complex than before." "What are they saying?" Pierce asked. "I'm not sure, but there's a new mathematical pattern. She looked confused. "It's counting down." The scout ships entered Earth's atmosphere, causing sonic booms that shattered windows in cities below their path. Fighter jets scrambled to intercept them but couldn't match their speed or maneuverability. One scout ship hovered over the Atlantic Ocean, extending a probe into the water. Another sampled the air above the Amazon rainforest. The third returned to Susan Mitchell's ranch in Wyoming, hovering lower than before. Susan watched from her kitchen window as the silver disk, nearly 100 feet across, descended to just 50 feet above her field. A bright light scanned across the ground. Then, without warning, the ship shuddered slightly. At Deep Space Monitoring Headquarters, alarms sounded. "Energy fluctuation. In Scout 3, called an operator. Dr. Grant looked up from her station. "Their communication just changed. The pattern is chaotic." Major Rodriguez pointed to another screen. "Look at their flight pattern. It's becoming erratic." The scout ship above Susan's ranch wobbled in the air, then stabilized. It quickly ascended back toward space, rejoining the fleet in orbit. Commander Pierce watched the readings with growing confusion. "What just happened?" "I don't know," said Dr. Grant. "But they're sending new messages between ships, urgent ones." Pierce looked at the orbital display showing the 37 Draconian ships. For the first time since they arrived, the alien vessels had broken their perfect formation. Something had changed. Earth had 3 weeks before the ships arrived. Now humanity would wait to see what the Draconians would do next. Supreme Commander Verax received the report from the scout ship captain. "Unknown biological readings from the surface, Supreme Commander. Our sensors detected microscopic organisms unlike any in our database." "Are they weapons?" Verax demanded. "Unknown, Supreme Commander, but 3 crew members who handled the sampling equipment are reporting unusual symptoms." Verax turned back to the view screen, studying the seemingly insignificant blue planet. After centuries of expansion, the Draconian Empire had never encountered resistance. Yet something about this world made his scales itch with unease. "Prepare the invasion fleet," he ordered. "We will take this world in 3 cycles." Unaware of the fateful decision made above them, humanity held its breath and waited. 3 days passed since the Draconian fleet entered Earth orbit. The massive alien ships remained in position, making no further moves. People around the world watched the skies with fear and wonder. Captain Ethan Walsh stood at his post on Earth's prototype orbital defense platform. The hastily completed station wasn't much compared to the alien fleet, but it gave Earth's defenders eyes in space. Through the viewport he could see 5 of the Draconian vessels. Their dark hulls reflected little light, making them look like holes cut in the starry background. "Any changes?" asked his second officer. "Nothing," Walsh replied. "They're just sitting there, watching us." On the main Draconian vessel, Supreme Commander Verax was not pleased. The medical bay was filled with crew members displaying unusual symptoms. Their scaled skin showed patches of discoloration, and many complained of breathing difficulties. "What is causing this?" Verax demanded of his chief medical officer. "Unknown, Supreme Commander," replied the doctor, his own scales showing signs of the same condition. "The specimens from the planet contain microorganisms our systems cannot identify. They appear to be multiplying within our environment." "Are they a deliberate attack?" asked Verax. "Impossible to determine. The primitive technology of this world should not be capable of creating biological weapons that can affect our biology." Verax turned away in frustration. The invasion plan was already delayed. "Increase decontamination protocols. Prepare a second scout mission with enhanced protective measures." On Earth, Secretary General Victoria Reeves addressed the United Nations in an emergency session. "We face an unprecedented situation," she said to the assembled leaders. "The alien fleet has made no direct communication with Earth governments. Our scientists continue to work on understanding their transmissions. What we do know is that they represent a civilization far beyond our technological level." In his home outside of Denver, Kyle Bennett adjusted his telescope. An amateur astronomer, he had been watching the alien ships every night since they became visible. Tonight, something caught his attention. "That's weird," he muttered to himself. One of the smaller Draconian ships was emitting a faint glow that pulsed irregularly. He quickly connected his camera to the telescope and began recording. At military headquarters, Admiral George Harding reviewed the latest intelligence with Commander Pierce and Dr. Grant. "Their scout ships are no longer entering the atmosphere," said Harding. "Something's changed." Dr. Grant studied her tablet. "Their communications have increased by 300% in the last 12 hours. The patterns suggest urgency, possibly even distress." "Distress?" Pierce looked surprised. "From what? We haven't done anything." "Unknown," said Dr. Grant. "But look at this. Frequency analysis. Their transmissions are becoming less structured, more chaotic." Admiral Harding frowned. "Are they preparing an attack?" "I don't think so," replied Dr. Grant. "This doesn't match any military communication pattern. It's more like emergency signals." Captain Walsh's voice came through on the secure channel. "Command, this is orbital platform. You need to see this." The video feed from the space station appeared on the main screen. It showed one of the Draconian vessels. A strange shimmer was visible along its hull. "We first noticed it about 20 minutes ago," said Walsh's voice. "The effect is spreading." As they watched, the shimmer intensified. Small pieces of the ship's exterior appeared to flake away, dissolving into space. "What are we seeing?" asked Admiral Harding. "I don't know," Pierce replied, his voice low with awe. "But whatever it is, they didn't plan for it." The effect continued to spread across the Draconian ship. Within an hour, large sections were visibly deteriorating. The ship tried to maneuver away from its position, its engines flaring, but the movement was erratic. Then, without warning or explosion, the entire vessel seemed to dissolve into a cloud of particles that quickly dispersed in the vacuum of space. Silence fell over the command center. "Did we just witness the destruction of an alien warship?" Admiral Harding finally asked. "Yes," said Pierce, "but not by our hand." Kyle Bennett's phone call reached the authorities an hour later. His telescope had captured the entire event. Soon, reports came in from other astronomers and observatories around the world. The Draconian ship was gone. On the Draconian command ship, panic was setting in. Supreme Commander Verax received reports of similar deterioration beginning on 2 more vessels. "Evacuate those ships immediately," he ordered. "Transfer all personnel to unaffected vessels." "Supreme Commander," his second officer reported, "the evacuation shuttles are showing signs of the same contamination. It appears to be spreading between vessels." For the first time in his long military career, Verax felt fear. Something on this seemingly primitive world was destroying his fleet, and he couldn't fight it. "Prepare my personal craft," he ordered. "I will return to the homeworld with samples. The rest of the fleet will maintain position until the contamination is understood and contained." But it was already too late. By the time Verax reached the shuttle bay, The deterioration had begun on the command ship as well. The deck beneath. His feet felt soft, unstable. Around him, crew members were collapsing, their scaled skin flaking away to reveal deteriorating tissue beneath. In Earth's orbit, the unthinkable continued to happen. Over the next 48 hours, ship after ship in the Draconian fleet simply disappeared. No explosions, no escape vessels. They simply dissolved into clouds of particles that dispersed in space. In the command center, Dr. Grant worked without sleep, analyzing the transmissions. Their communications became increasingly desperate, she explained to the assembled leaders. Then, one by one, they went silent. What happened to them? Asked Secretary General Reeves. We don't know yet, said Commander Pierce. But I have a theory. Captain Walsh is collecting samples of the particle clouds for analysis, and we've sent teams to the Wyoming ranch where the scout ship hovered. Admiral Harding looked at the orbital display. Where once 37 alien warships had threatened Earth, now only 8 remained, and those showed signs of the same deterioration. Do we attempt communication? Asked Secretary General Reeves. Offer assistance? Pierce shook his head. Their remaining transmissions suggest they believe we did this to them. Any approach might be seen as an attack. In his home, Kyle Bennett continued to record the historic events. Through his telescope, he watched as another Draconian ship began to shimmer and break apart. It's like they're being eaten away, he told the government scientist who had come to review his footage. Like rust, but happening in hours instead of years. On Susan Mitchell's ranch, scientists in protective gear collected soil samples. Anything? She asked Dr. Nathan Rivers, who was leading the investigation. Maybe, he said. We've isolated some unusual microorganisms in your soil. They're unlike anything in our databases. The last Draconian ship held out longer than the others. Its crew had implemented extreme quarantine measures, sealing off sections of the ship as contamination was detected. But in the end, it too succumbed to the mysterious force. 72 hours after the dissolution began, Earth's skies were clear of the alien threat. 37 warships and their crews gone without a trace. The world watched in stunned silence, relieved yet troubled by the mysterious fate of their would-be conquerors. The question on everyone's mind: what had happened to the Draconian fleet? And more importantly, would they return? 2 weeks after the last Draconian ship vanished, pieces of alien technology began falling through Earth's atmosphere. They created streaks of light across the sky that people mistook for shooting stars. Unlike meteors, these fragments didn't burn up completely. They reached the ground. Lieutenant Lisa Dixon piloted her helicopter over a remote area of Arizona desert. Her team had tracked one of the larger fragments to this location. As the helicopter hovered, she spotted it, a twisted piece of metal about the size of a car door, half buried in sand. Ground team, this is Air Leader. I have visual on the object. Sending coordinates now. The recovery team approached in hazmat suits. They worked carefully, scanning the fragment before touching it. They loaded it into a special container and transported it to a nearby military base. Similar scenes played out around the world. In Russia, China, Brazil, and dozens of other countries, pieces of the Draconian fleet fell to Earth. Some nations shared their findings. Others kept them secret, hoping to gain advantage. At a secure facility in Nevada, Dr. Nathan Rivers examined the fragment recovered by Lieutenant Dixon. It appeared to be part of a control console. Strange symbols covered its surface, and the material itself was unlike any metal known on Earth. "What can you tell us?" asked Agent Samantha Powell, the intelligence officer overseeing the investigation. "The composition is fascinating," said Dr. Rivers, looking up from his microscope. "It's a metal alloy we can't reproduce with our technology, but that's not the most interesting part." He adjusted the microscope and gestured for her to look. Agent Powell peered through the lens. "What am I seeing?" "Those tiny structures moving across the surface. They're microorganisms. They're consuming the alien material." In a lab across the facility, Professor William Carter studied biological samples taken from the fragment. His Specialty was theoretical xenobiology, the study of potential alien life forms. He had never expected to examine actual alien biology in his lifetime. The cellular structure is silicon-based rather than carbon-based, he explained to his team. Their biochemistry is fundamentally different from Earth life. One of his assistants looked up from her own microscope. "Professor, you should see this." Carter moved to her station and looked at the sample. "Is that—" "Yes," she confirmed. "The Earth microorganisms are breaking down the alien cells. They're using them as food." Agent Powell organized a video conference with similar research teams around the world. Despite political differences, scientists from 28 countries shared their findings. "The same pattern appears in all recovered fragments," said a Chinese researcher. "Earth microbes are consuming the alien materials at an accelerating rate." "We've identified similar microorganisms in our samples," added a Brazilian scientist. "They appear to be evolving rapidly to break down the alien compounds more efficiently." Dr. Rivers shared his team's findings. The organisms were present, but dormant in soil samples before the alien arrival. Something activated them when exposed to Draconian biology. Professor Carter joined the discussion. "This suggests Earth has a natural defense mechanism against alien biological intrusion. These microorganisms may have evolved over millions of years to protect our biosphere." At Susan Mitchell's ranch in Wyoming, Howard Nelson continued his soil analysis. The concentration of the mysterious microorganisms was highest here, where the scout ship had hovered lowest to the ground. "The microbes respond to the alien material like it's their natural food source," he told Susan as they walked across her field. "But until the Draconians arrived, they were just ordinary soil bacteria." "You're saying my dirt ate a space fleet?" Susan asked with disbelief. Howard smiled. "In simple terms, yes. Something in your soil reacted to the alien biology. It woke up these microbes and they adapted very quickly." In Washington, D.C., a classified briefing was underway. General Diane Russell addressed the Joint Chiefs of Staff and cabinet members. "The evidence is clear," she said, standing beside a display showing microscopic images. "The Draconian fleet was destroyed by Earth bacteria. The microorganisms entered their ships through the sampling equipment used by their scout vessels. Once inside, they spread rapidly through the air filtration systems." "Are you saying our planet defended itself?" asked the Secretary of Defense. Dr. Jack Morris from the CDC stepped forward. "In a manner of speaking, yes. These microorganisms have existed in Earth's soil for thousands, maybe millions of years. They remain dormant until exposed to specific foreign biochemical signatures. Then they activate and evolve rapidly to break down the foreign material." "That's how the entire fleet was destroyed?" The president sounded skeptical. "Germs?" "Yes, Mr. President," confirmed Dr. Morris. "The Draconians were literally eaten from the inside out. Their ships, their technology, their biological forms, all consumed by microorganisms that evolved specifically to target them." "Could this happen to humans returning from space?" asked someone. "No," said Dr. Morris. "The microbes only react to biochemistry that's fundamentally different from Earth life. Human astronauts are still Earth biology." General Russell continued. The briefing. "We believe the Draconians were caught completely off guard. Their quarantine measures were designed for their understanding of biology, not ours. They had no defense against an attack they couldn't see or understand. The implications were enormous. Earth had a natural defense system against alien invasion. The planet itself had protected its inhabitants." Around the world, debates began about how to use this knowledge. Emma Pearson, a government official, was tasked with creating protocols for future contacts. "We need to balance security with ethical treatment of any visitors," she explained to her team. "We should warn peaceful aliens about Earth's microbiome, while maintaining this defense against hostile forces." Research continued on the recovered fragments. Scientists noticed the alien materials were degrading faster each day, as the microorganisms became more efficient at breaking them down. In laboratories across the globe, researchers worked to understand the sudden evolutionary leaps the microbes had made. They seemed to adapt with a purpose, as if programmed to defend Earth from outside threats. Agent Powell interviewed witnesses who had observed the Draconian ships before they vanished. A pattern emerged from their accounts. Multiple witnesses reported seeing unusual behavior from what may have been crew members, she told Dr. Rivers. One observatory technician observed what looked like a Draconian outside its ship, moving erratically before collapsing. They were getting sick, Dr. Rivers realized. The microbes affected their biology first, then spread to their technology. In IT, a secure room beneath the Pentagon, Howard Nelson presented his findings to military leaders. The highest concentration of these defensive microorganisms is in the soil at Susan Mitchell's ranch, he explained. We believe the first scout ship that landed there triggered the initial response. Is this just luck or something more? Asked General Russell. Howard had no answer. None of them did. How could Earth have evolved a perfect defense against alien biochemistry it had never encountered? Was it just fortunate evolutionary chance, or was there some greater design at work? As the research continued, one thing became increasingly clear. Earth was not the defenseless planet the Draconians had believed it to be. It had protected itself in ways humanity never imagined possible. And somewhere out in space, the Draconian Empire waited for a fleet that would never return. 2 months after the Draconian fleet vanished, Dr. Jack Morris stood in his CDC laboratory surrounded by government officials. On the large screen behind him, images showed microscopic organisms breaking down alien material. We've identified the primary microorganism responsible, Dr. Morris explained, pointing to a particular bacterium. We're calling it Xenophagus terrestris, Earth's alien eater. It remained dormant in soil until exposed to the Draconian biochemistry. General Diane Russell studied the images with intense focus. And this tiny thing destroyed an entire invasion. Fleet. Not by itself, Dr. Morris clarified. What makes Xenophagus remarkable is its ability to evolve rapidly when activated. Within hours of contacting Draconian biology, it developed specific enzymes to break down their cellular structure. Then it spread the genetic information to other microbes through horizontal gene transfer. Emma Pearson, who was developing protocols for future alien contacts, asked the question on everyone's mind. Could this happen to friendly visitors too? Or is it only triggered by hostile intent? The room grew quiet. Dr. Morris looked uncomfortable. That's the most fascinating aspect. The microbes appear to respond differently depending on the behavior of the alien biology they encounter. Our tests using recovered Draconian material show aggressive consumption. But when we introduced similar compounds with slight variations, the response was much milder. Are you suggesting these bacteria can tell friend from foe? General Russell sounded skeptical. I know it sounds incredible, Dr. Morris admitted. But the evidence suggests some kind of recognition mechanism we don't yet understand. At Susan Mitchell's ranch, Howard Nelson worked with a team of soil microbiologists. They had set up an extensive research station where the scout ship had hovered. Howard carefully collected another soil sample and placed it in a sealed container. Susan approached, bringing him a cup of coffee. After 2 months, she had grown used to scientists treating her property like a laboratory. Found anything new today? She asked. Howard took the coffee gratefully. The concentration of Xenophagus is highest right here in this exact spot. It's like a bullseye, with decreasing levels as you move outward. Why my ranch? Susan wondered. There must be these same bacteria all over the world. There are, but not in this concentration, Howard explained. Something about this location is special. The soil composition, perhaps, or some other factor we haven't identified yet. In a lab at Harvard University, Professor William Carter made a breakthrough. He had been studying the relationship between Xenophagus and other Earth microorganisms. They work together, he told his research team, excitement clear in his voice. Xenophagus identifies the foreign biology, then recruits other microbes to help break it down. It's like a microbial commander calling in specialized troops. In Washington, D.C., Emma Pearson presented her draft protocols for future extraterrestrial contact. The document outlined procedures for warning peaceful visitors about Earth's defensive microbiome, while maintaining this natural protection against hostile forces. We recommend establishing a quarantine zone on the moon, she explained. First contact should occur there, with full disclosure about our planet's natural defenses. One official raised his hand. What if the aliens see this as a threat? Knowledge of this defense mechanism could be interpreted as a biological weapon. Emma had considered this. That's why transparency is key. We explain that this is not a weapon we created, but a natural evolutionary defense. We offer protective measures for peaceful visitors. The debate continued for hours. Some officials argued for keeping Earth's defense system secret, giving humanity an advantage. Others pushed for full disclosure to prevent misunderstandings that could lead to conflict. In Nevada, Dr. Rivers continued studying the largest recovered Draconian fragment. The alien material was breaking down faster each day. We need to preserve some samples before they're completely gone, he told Agent Powell. At the current rate of degradation, we'll have nothing left to study within a week. Agent Powell nodded. I'll arrange for deep freeze storage. That might slow the process. Dr. Rivers wasn't optimistic. The microbes adapt to changing conditions remarkably quickly. Even freezing may not stop them for long. At the United Nations, Secretary General Victoria Reeves addressed a special session about the implications of Earth's natural defense. We have been given a remarkable gift, she said. Our planet protects us in ways we never imagined. But this knowledge comes with great responsibility. How we use this information will shape humanity's future. Among the stars, representatives from around the world listened intently. The Draconian encounter had united Earth in unprecedented ways. Old enemies shared research. Nations that rarely cooperated now worked together to understand their planet's defenses. In his laboratory, Dr. Morris made another stunning discovery. He rushed to share it with General Russell and the scientific leadership team. We found xenophagus in ancient ice cores from Antarctica, he explained, showing them the data. The bacteria has existed virtually unchanged for at least 100,000 years, possibly much longer. What does that mean? Asked General Russell. It means this defense system didn't evolve in response to the Draconians, Dr. Morris said. It was already in place, waiting to be activated. The implications were enormous. Earth had a defense mechanism against alien biology long before humans developed advanced civilization. At Susan Mitchell's ranch, Howard Nelson sat on the porch with Susan, watching the sunset. After months of intensive research, he had developed a theory. I believe your land was special even before the Draconians arrived, he told her. There's something about this soil, minerals, composition, maybe even subtle electromagnetic properties, that made the xenophagus bacteria particularly concentrated and responsive here. So when that scout ship took samples, Susan began, it collected the most potent version of Earth's defense system, Howard finished. If they had landed anywhere, else the response might have been slower, giving them time to recognize the threat and develop countermeasures. Susan looked out over her fields, seeing them in a new light. My ordinary ranch saved the world. Howard nodded. In a way, yes. In laboratories around the world, scientists continued to study xenophagus and its remarkable properties. They discovered it could be found in soil samples from every continent, with higher concentrations near ancient impact craters and certain geological formations. As understanding grew, so did the questions. How had such a specific defense evolved? Was it pure chance, or was there some greater design at work? Had Earth faced similar threats in its distant past, leading to the evolution of this protective system? Emma Pearson revised her contact protocols based on new findings. She worked with a team of ethicists, scientists, and diplomats to create guidelines that balanced protection with peaceful engagement. Earth is not as defenseless as we once thought, she told her team. But with this knowledge comes a responsibility to use it wisely. Dr. Morris presented his findings to an international scientific conference, carefully omitting classified details. The scientific community was stunned by the implications of a planet with built-in defenses against external, biological threats. We are just beginning to understand our world's natural protection systems, he concluded. This discovery opens new areas of research that may revolutionize our understanding of evolutionary biology and Earth's place in the cosmos. As the sun set on Susan Mitchell's ranch, Howard Nelson packed the last of his equipment. The intensive research phase was concluding, though monitoring would continue indefinitely. "What happens now?" Susan asked. Howard looked up at the darkening sky. "Now we prepare. The Draconians may be gone, but they're not the only civilization out there. Next time we'll be ready." 6 months after the Draconian fleet vanished, Dr. Olivia Grant sat in the control room of the Deep Space Monitoring Initiative. Her role had expanded from xenolinguistics specialist to head of the new communication effort with potential extraterrestrial civilizations. Her team worked around the clock monitoring signals from space. "Dr. Grant," called one of her analysts, "we've detected something unusual. It's not like the Draconian transmissions." Olivia hurried over to the workstation. The screen showed a pattern of signals coming from a star system 40 light-years away. The mathematical structure was complex yet recognizable. "It's a conversation," she said, studying the pattern, "between at least 3 different sources, and they're talking about Earth." Over the next few days, Olivia's team worked to decode the transmissions. They weren't directed at Earth, but rather communications between other civilizations that Earth's improved monitoring systems had managed to detect. Director Ryan Simmons of the newly formed Extraterrestrial Defense Agency joined Dr. Grant as she prepared to brief government officials on their findings. "How confident are you in your translation?" he asked. "Confident enough," Olivia replied. "The mathematical structures provide context. We've cross-verified with multiple team members. The message is clear." In the briefing room, Olivia stood before the assembled officials, including General Russell and Emma Pearson. "We've intercepted communications between 3 distinct alien civilizations," she began. "They aren't aware we're listening. The transmissions refer to Earth specifically as a quarantine zone or forbidden world. They describe our solar system as protected or dangerous." "They know about us?" asked General Russell. "They know about what happened to the Draconians," Olivia clarified. "And apparently this isn't the first time Earth's defenses have eliminated a hostile fleet. The transmissions reference at least 2 previous incidents over the past several thousand years." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Earth had been visited before, and its microbial defenses had protected it multiple times without humanity's knowledge. Emma Pearson spoke up. "This changes our contact protocols. We're not making first contact. We're re-establishing contact with civilizations that already know about us." "But how would they know what happened to previous visitors?" asked someone. "If the microbes destroyed them completely, how would their homeworlds know what occurred?" Dr. Grant had a theory. "The transmissions suggest standard procedure is to send unmanned probes first. When these probes encountered our microbiome, they were affected but managed to transmit data back before being destroyed. The spacefaring civilizations learned to avoid Earth through these costly lessons." On the Navajo Reservation in Arizona, Chief Paul Martinez met with Director Simmons. The government had reached out to indigenous leaders around the world, seeking traditional knowledge that might contain clues about previous alien encounters. "Our stories speak of the Earth Mother protecting her children from sky demons," Chief Martinez explained as they walked across the desert landscape. "The demons came in great canoes that sailed the stars. They wished to take the land and make the people their slaves. But the Earth Mother sent her smallest children, too small for eyes to see, to devour the demons and their canoes." Similar stories emerged from indigenous cultures in Africa, Australia, South America, and Asia. Many contained remarkably similar elements. Hostile visitors from the sky, defeated not by human weapons, but by invisible defenders sent by the Earth itself. At the United Nations, Claire Bennett from the Diplomatic Corps presented a new framework for potential peaceful contact. "Based on the intercepted transmissions, we believe peaceful civilizations have found ways to visit Earth without triggering our planet's defenses," she explained. "Our scientists theorize they use biological containment or specially designed interfaces that don't register as threats to the microbiome." Secretary General Reeves nodded thoughtfully. "So, the stories of friendly visitors in our folklore might also be true." "It's possible," Claire acknowledged. "The transmissions refer to Earth as both dangerous and valuable. a world to be respected rather than conquered. In her laboratory, Dr. Grant worked with a team of linguists and mathematicians to craft a response message. After months of debate, world leaders had agreed to acknowledge humanity's awareness of the cosmos. The message must be clear yet non-threatening, she told her team. We want to explain that we now understand our planet's natural defenses and wish to establish peaceful contact with non-hostile civilizations. The final message combined mathematical constants, visual representations of humans and Earth, and carefully constructed language patterns that their research suggested would be universally understandable. At Susan Mitchell's ranch, now an official research station, she watched as technicians installed specialized communication equipment. Her land, once just a quiet cattle ranch, had become humanity's front line in extraterrestrial contact. "Why here?" she asked Director Simmons, who had come to oversee the installation. "The microbe concentration is highest here," he explained. "If we're right about how the defense system works, this is where we're most likely to detect subtle differences between hostile and peaceful contact attempts. This is where Earth's biological security system is strongest." Susan looked out across her fields with a new understanding. "So my ranch isn't just where we detected the Draconians. It's a natural monitoring station." "Exactly," said Simmons. "Your land has been protecting Earth for longer than humans have been recording history." In orbit, Captain Ethan Walsh supervised the construction of Earth's first true defensive platform. Unlike the hastily assembled station he had commanded during the Draconian crisis, this was a permanent installation equipped with both defensive systems and sophisticated monitoring equipment. "We're not just watching for threats anymore," he told his crew. "We're watching for opportunities to connect." Dr. Jack Morris continued his research on Xenophagus terrestris and its remarkable properties. Each discovery led to more questions, but one thing became increasingly clear. The microbe's ability to distinguish between threat and non-threat was no accident of evolution. "It's almost as if they were designed," he confided to Dr. Rivers. "The genetic structures that activate in response to hostile biology are too specific, too precise to be random mutations." Dr. Rivers considered this carefully. "Are you suggesting some kind of intelligent design?" "I'm suggesting that somewhere in Earth's past, someone or something may have given our planet a defense system," Dr. Morris replied. "Whether that was another species or some aspect of Earth itself we don't yet understand, I can't say." 1 year after the Draconian fleet disappeared, humanity launched its response message toward the stars. The carefully crafted transmission explained humanity's new understanding of their planet's defenses and invited peaceful contact. No one knew if or when an answer might come, but Earth would be ready. The crisis had united humanity in unprecedented ways. Old enemies cooperated in space, scientists shared discoveries freely. The knowledge that Earth itself was their ally gave people a new perspective on their place in the cosmos. At the anniversary ceremony, Secretary General Reeves addressed a global audience. "1 year ago, we discovered we are not alone in the universe," she said. "We also discovered that our planet has been protecting us all along. As we look to the stars, we do so not with fear, but with confidence and hope. Earth has chosen to protect life. Now we must choose how to live among the stars." As night fell across Susan Mitchell's ranch, she stood on her porch looking up at the sky, much as she had done the night she first saw the strange lights. Howard Nelson joined her, his research now focused on understanding the special properties of her land. "Do you think they'll come back?" she asked. "Someone will," Howard replied. "But next time we'll be ready to distinguish friend from foe. And the universe already knows. Earth is not to be trifled with." Above them, the stars shone in a sky that humanity would never see the same way again. They were not alone, and they never had been. Earth itself had been their guardian all along, a living world with defenses as ancient as life itself. Somewhere among those stars, the message was traveling outward. Humanity had announced its awareness. The Draconian fleet had disappeared without a trace, but humanity's journey to the stars was just beginning.